So here we are at the Multiplex rack from the old Miami Space Transit Planetarium. Got some funny stuff we stuck on it. And what you see is a lot of cards, a lot of power supply type stuff. There's a variac down there at the bottom. A lot of cool germanium transistors. Now, this right here was actually a very cool piece of technology for the time. This was the first star projector to make use of multiplexing. And what that allowed them to do is, remember, we're talking about 1966. There was no LED lighting, there was no LCD displays, there was no video projectors, there was none of that. If I wanted to show you a planet, I had a little light bulb inside of a special projector with a little image of a planet that you would turn on, and it would post up a picture of a planet up on a planetarium dome. If I wanted to show you the moon, that's how it worked also. So you had all these wires running back and forth between the console, these racks, and the star projector to be able to do things. So if I could find a way to make one pair of wires do multiple things, it would save me a lot of wire. It would make things lighter. It would make wiring bundles smaller. It would also facilitate how much stuff I'm got going to the star projector. Because remember, all of those wires that went to the star projector, they had to go on slip rings. So as the star projector would spin around, go up and down, sideways, whatever it was doing, you could maintain electrical contact. So it was all done through slip rings. So what they did is they came up with this early form of multiplexing. So I had two wires. I could feed them plus minus and do something. I could feed them minus and plus and do something, or I could feed them AC and do something. And that was part of the multiplexing, and that's what this whole rack assembly would do. And these cards come out. There's a ton of these 2N1011 transistors, all hand wired. This slid into this tray. There we go. Oh, missed. Oh, I'm not having good luck here with this. There we go. I've seen this Varipack stuff before. I guess they were like an OEM for these edge connector cages. And down here, you have the same ordeal with a card that comes out with a whole bunch. See the date codes on the transistors? 10th week, 1966. These transistors came right off the assembly line and right into this projector because this thing went into service in 1966. All germanium. And the secret to the fact that this stayed in operation is the fact that it was always on. 363 days out of the year, this thing was in service in a controlled environment, air conditioning always on, and that's why these transistors survived as long as they did. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip this guy around so you can see the back side of it. Alright, so there it is. I turned that rack around, the multiplex rack. Now why is there an outlet there? Well, it's because right here went a little oscilloscope that was used to diagnose this whole thing should something go wrong. And I do have that oscilloscope put away. And you see all the wiring. I mean, it's crazy. All done by hand. And that was all for the multiplex circuit. Unfortunately, this thing was stored somewhere, those. Not the greatest. See that stuff on the top there? Oh. That's evidence of rodents and their nasty little bodies crawling over old electronic stuff. I know this from many years of dealing with old electronic junk. Wherever it was stored, there was a mouse problem. There you see. That's the grease from their bodies having run across the top of some of these parts. So wherever this thing was, there was rodents that got in, or maybe they got into the planetarium once the doors closed and before the equipment was removed and everything. The building's not there anymore, it was demolished. Luckily these were saved. But there you go, that's the multiplex rack. This tube thing over here, that's a time delay tube. So when you would flip the whole system on at the console, you would turn it on, engage the system. There was a brief time delay from the time that you turned it on till the motors were engaged over here, and the whole star projector would move and lock into the proper coordinates. So that's what that glass tube is there. But the whole system was all solid state. I'm going to go ahead and flip that guy back around. Give me a second. So there we are, back the way it sat when it was bolted down in the planetarium. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is he going to do with this? Well, there is 2 Spitz Space Transit Planetariums. Spitz was the manufacturer. Out in the wild, in the hands of collectors. One guy, I don't know if he ever put his into service. I think it was a guy out in Nevada or something like that. And then there's another guy, Owen Ferris, that runs the Planetarium Museum. If you think planetariums are cool, look up Owen Ferris Planetarium Museum. And he's got a really cool website with a lot of history. This thing is so rare that nobody cares. That's how rare it is. Why? Because what are you going to do with this? So my intentions are, I am going to keep this rack with the motors and everything intact and move some of this stuff, like those pieces down there, and maybe some of these card racks, and just make one cool rack of old planetarium equipment, just for memory's sake, because there's nothing really you can do with this. And the rest of the parts, especially all of these cool old transistors, I'm going to carefully remove everything and take it all apart, and hopefully be able to put together the Planetarium audio amp out of all these old transistors or something cool like that, and repurpose 2 of the racks for audio equipment and so forth. Because I mean, what are you going to do with this? You can't do anything with it nowadays, other than conversation's sake. And I did try to contact the people who might have a need for any of these parts, but nobody had any need for any of the parts. So I'll be keeping the computer section all together and reconfiguring with some pieces from these 2 racks, and then the rest of the stuff will get taken apart and the racks repurposed and the electronic parts repurposed. But there you have it. The analog computer that controlled the Miami Space Transit Planetarium for, what was it, almost 50 years, I guess. And in service the whole way through. The first of its kind that became fully operational. Not the first installed, but the first that became fully operational, and the last to be shut down in the world. And those were the racks that controlled all the equipment. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And maybe as I dig up more planetarium stuff, I'll post videos on some of that other equipment as well.